I wouldn't expect this to be your full-time job. Absolutely not. Do it as a side hustle between your other drone work, or go all in with real estate and do drone services as an add-on to interior photography, because that's where the real money is in real estate.
You're listening to the Drone Radio Show podcast, the show about drones and the people who use them for business, fun, and research. Hosted by Randy Goers.
Hello, everyone. This is Randy Goers, and welcome to the Drone Radio Show podcast, episode 143. What do we need to know to make money shooting real estate? Well, today's guest is going to clue us in on all of the details. Josh Boughner is founder and CEO of SoldByAir, a drone services company that provides real estate drone photography nationwide. His company has created a suite of tools for running an aerial photography business. With hundreds of drone pilots in their user base, they are the largest aerial photography network focused entirely on real estate. Josh is here to talk about SoldByAir, how drones are used in the real estate market, and what drone operators should expect if they want to make money shooting real estate. Before we hear from Josh, I want to thank those of you who have been supporting my funding campaign on Patreon. For as little as $1 per month, you can help defray the cost of production and keep the podcast going and growing. Go to patreon.com/drone radio show to join the team. Now let's learn about the opportunities to use drones in real estate with Josh Boughner. Let's pick up the interview where I asked Josh to introduce himself.
My name is Josh Boughner. I run SoldByAir.com. I've been doing aerial photography and real estate for about 2 years now. Based out of southeastern PA, but we do this all across the nation. There's hundreds of drone pilots on our site that we send jobs out to.
So Josh, tell us about SoldByAir. How did you come up with the idea?
About 2 years ago, I got a drone for my birthday, and I took it out, started flying it. Some family members noticed I was playing around with it. They asked if I could do a shoot for a realtor that they knew. So I went and did the shoot for the realtor. I charged her $50, which at the time was way too low, but I didn't know that. I thought it was really cool, though. I went in, told my team at work, and they said, "Josh, you just broke the law." And I said, "What? Are you kidding me? How did I break the law?" Right? And back then was when you needed a 333 exemption. But it was also about the time when they had announced the Part 107. So I was studying like crazy. I got that almost the first week it was out, and I've just been running a million miles an hour ever since. But what I found was that while I was doing aerial photography and video for these real estate agents, it was tricky because they would call me and be like, "Hey, Josh, can you do this shoot on so-and-so at this location?" And I would always have to say, "Well, let me get back to you." And I have to go look up the weather. I have to look up the airspace. I have to look up the sun, all these different myriads of things. So I developed a dashboard that had all these tools for me to be able to have quick access to that kind of info. And then from there, I added in other features to this platform, like customer management, file transfer, and a number of other tools as well. And it became this whole entire platform that I realized other people might find value in this. So then I opened it up to the community, for free to log in to beta test it. I knew there was other drone networks out there. I was trying to avoid going down that path, honestly. But much to my chagrin, the question I kept getting over and over again, the feedback always was, "So where are the jobs? How do I find the jobs?" And so like a developer, you have to listen to your feedback, right? I'm like, okay, I will add in a pilot job network. And that's kind of where it started. And it's morphed to now be a little bit of a mix between, it's a tool to help drone pilots run their drone business with a lot of custom code, and then also a platform for like a drone marketplace.
This is kind of an obvious question, but how are drones used in today's real estate market?
Usually it's for listings, it's to show off different perspectives of the property, not just how cool the property looks from the sky, but maybe how the property sits in relation to the golf course that's right behind it, or how it is if it's a rental property, for example, how close it is to the ocean if it's a beach house. So things like that add a ton of value, but also if there's nice features in the property, say there's a nice deck or a pool or a lot of acreage, those are all things that also show well from the sky. So people are using it in that capacity as well. And then you still do have a number of real estate agents who use it because it's just, frankly, the next cool thing. They're just people who say they saw someone else do a drone video, so they want to try one. So sometimes you get those as well. So it's a new and exciting market, but it is starting to mature a little bit as well.
Is it important to hire a drone operator that knows something about real estate? Or can we get fine by hiring a qualified drone pilot who's just really good at flying and taking images?
It absolutely is important. The reason I say that is because I think a lot of your listeners realize how low the bar of entry is to get into aerial photography and have a drone pilot business. There's kind of a sense that there's a drone pilot, professional drone pilot on every corner. So because of that, there's a lot of people who don't really, quite frankly, know what they're doing. It's pretty easy to fly a drone, but there's much more to it than that. And a lot of people gravitate towards real estate, and I understand that. Everyone's been in a house. A lot of people own houses, so there's a familiarity with it. A lot of people know realtors. So I get why people gravitate towards it, but there is nuance to it. So by hiring a company or a drone pilot who knows a lot about real estate, you're going to get that nuanced experience and understanding. A quick example. So we send real estate drone jobs out to people all across the country. And a common mistake we see, even though we put in our documentation, is that we'll get a video clip a lot of times where the pilot has taken a clip of the real estate sign that has the realtor's contact info in it. And they think they're doing a favor for the real estate agent, which I understand, but the reality is they're not, because the vast majority of MLSs out there don't allow the sign to be in any kind of advertisement material in the listings. And even beyond that, there can't be any kind of information that ties that property to the real estate agent who's selling it on the MLSs the vast majority of the time. That's just a simple mistake, but it's one that makes the pilot look amateurish and can really screw up an entire video if they didn't realize it. There's also the understanding of the psychology behind real estate photography in general that people with experience bring to the table. What I mean by that is when people are shopping for homes, they want to feel like they're in the house themselves. So they don't want to see the car in the driveway. They don't want to see the soccer net that belongs to the kids who live there. So it's less about decluttering and more about depersonalizing the property. The same thing goes inside that goes outside. Just you want to depersonalize it. So really, it's the understanding of the industry and the nuances. And those are just a couple examples, of which there's many, that hiring someone who has the experience and the knowledge can really bring to the table, that to avoid the problems that the real estate agents will have with the content you give them.
Is it typical for someone to take images of the inside of the house as well as the aerial images?
There's a mix. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Usually what we see and what we've experienced is most of the times if it's just images, that's a lot of times where you'll have people doing both. But when it comes to video, a lot of times you'll have more of a video expert because a lot of times photographers don't want to mess with video. So yes and no, it's really case by case. You have real estate photographers who are one-stop shop for everything. You have people who don't want to mess with it. So it just depends, to be honest.
A lot of people automatically think about real estate when they're thinking about using a drone to make money. In your experience, what do you see in terms of the income potential? I mean, can people make a good living just shooting real estate?
That's a great question. It's one that we probably get the most. It's extremely competitive because the bar of entry is so low. And it does vary across the nation. Like if you're in Vermont or Maine and it's really anywhere that's really sparsely populated, a lot of times you can ask for more there because there's just not enough drone pilots to be found. And then there's also some specific high dollar areas, Pacific Northwest, sometimes Southern California, where there's pockets that you can charge more. But they're becoming fewer and far between, and the market's starting to, let's say, level out and balance some. So the price points are lower than what you find in other industries. And what we see, generally speaking, this isn't always, but generally speaking, is for photos, the high end, you top out around 200 for aerials. For video and photos, you top out around 350. Now, you can get more. You absolutely can. Most times you'll get less, but it's market dependent and also depends on your competition. That's what we see most of the times, the high end of the pricing. The problem is every property doesn't require aerials and video. So there's not as many jobs as people might think there are. So what I tell people is to do it because you love it, not because you're in it for the money. I wouldn't expect this to be your full-time job. Absolutely not. Do it as a side hustle between your other drone work, cell phone tower inspection, construction, whatever else you want to get into, or go all in with real estate and do drone services as an add-on to interior photography, because that's where the real money is in real estate. It's every house needs interior photos. So you can do it as an add-on to that. But don't please don't quit your job. Don't think this is going to be full-time income doing entirely real estate, aerial photography and video. I don't want to tell people not to follow their dreams, but it's just the reality. It's a low bar, and there's just not enough work for all the people doing it when drone services are seen as an add-on in real estate. That's not to say you can't make decent money. You can do in the summertime, in this late spring when there's a lot of jobs, you'll have multiple a day. There's many times where I personally am doing 5 or 6 jobs a day, but those aren't most days. So most days, you get a day where it's rainy, you can't do anything, or like now in the middle of winter in the Northeast, and it's just dead because no one wants aerials when there's snow on the ground because it doesn't look pretty. So if you can make decent money, but don't think it's going to be your primary income.
Many real estate brokers I've met are pretty cost conscious. They'll shop around for the lowest price, and sometimes drone operators can feel pressured to lower their rates, especially new drone pilots. What advice do you give to operators if they find themselves in this situation?
That's a tough one, and I have different views on that depending on situations. But for one thing, you have to ask yourself, there are certain types of customers you don't want as customers. You have to ask, is this one of those customers? But on the flip side of it, in one of my previous roles, I was a director of technology, and standard practice is to go out and get at least 3 quotes for every project. So I can't hate on that, but if all that person wants is the lowest price, then you definitely don't want them. But if you can say, I'm okay with that person being cheaper than me, but here's my portfolio of work, look how much better it is than everybody else around here, then they should be happy to pay your prices. And at that point, if they're not, then you definitely don't want them. I do think that you have to know your market, though, and set your prices accordingly. One of the biggest things, we get it all the time. We get random people who send us an email or a message asking us what our pricing is, pretending to be a customer. It's very obvious they're not. You can tell right away from the way the email comes in, the way it's written. It doesn't bother us. It's fine, whatever. But so much people, everyone wants to be the cheapest a lot of times. And it's just that's not the way to do it. To me, the way I personally set my pricing originally was that I picked the price way too low, that $50 price. Then I started raising it and raising it and raising it and kept raising it until I got to a point where customers started saying, sorry, we have somebody else that's cheaper. And that's about where I stopped. I didn't drop it to that lower person because I don't want to be the cheapest, but I stopped because you want to have some people reject you sometimes based on price. You want that to happen because that means there's some other Joe Schmo who's bottom feeding and you're not. So don't always be the person who's at the lowest. It's okay to turn down work. It's in this space, there's so many realtors that if you miss out on 1 or 2, that can't get you upset. If it does, you're not going to survive in the space because you need to have a ton of realtors who are your customers to really do decent work. So don't get all upset about, I would avoid them, and don't get upset if someone picks someone else that's cheaper.
Does a relationship exist between the price paid for a video and the value of the home being sold? Can drone operators charge more for a video to help market a more expensive home than a less expensive home?
Yeah, it doesn't go over well. What you can do, though, is charge different prices based on acreage, which is what we do. Because honestly, a $300,000 house on half an acre versus a $7 million house on a half acre, a lot of times it's going to be about the same amount of work for you as the drone operator. So it's kind of hard to justify doubling the price when your time on site might be 10 minutes longer. And that's at best, because it's really the same, almost the same size to a drone, really. So you're not doing much work just because the price is higher. But acreage will suck up your time and suck it up quickly. So we do charge extra for that. And it's tricky because sometimes we'll get requests where the realtor won't say much about the property, just an address. And sometimes you look on a map and you can't really tell where it is. And before you know it, you show up and it's a 150-acre farm. So it's an important thing to get ahead of time. For acreage, you definitely can charge more. Yeah, absolutely.
How does one go about planning a real estate shoot? What should they do before they even get to the property?
Just like I just mentioned, get the acreage, find out, because it's easy to forget to ask that question because real estate is all about, yes, quality is important, but just as important is speed. You need to turn around these properties quickly. You need to get on site, get in and get out quickly. So it's easy to not do a whole bunch of background information checking on the property. Just, queue up 5 or 6 shoots in a day, and you don't always have time to do all the checking into it. But get the acreage because that can be a big gotcha. Look on a map, look on Google Map, Google Earth, or some kind of Zillow, whatever, to look at the property to see what you're going to be stepping into. If necessary, depending upon, sometimes it's really obvious. You can tell it's like a subdivision, and it's just a single family home, and it's clear as day what you're walking into. But some days, particularly when it's like farmland or commercial properties, you don't always know where the property boundaries are. In those scenarios, it's valuable if you have a tool, which we do have, SoldByAir, but there's others out there, where you can have them mark on a map where the boundaries of the property are, so you have a better idea of exactly what you're going to be doing on site. The most important thing of all, in my mind, is to develop a repeatable process. It's going to be a little bit different based upon where you are. Generally speaking, what we do is we have a set of photos we get with every shoot. We'll get a high establishing shot that has the property with the rest of the neighborhood in it from 300, 400 feet up. We'll focus on if there's a different attraction or like golf course or whatever's in the area that they might be keen on having in the photo. We'll make sure to have the house and that in a photo from high up, because that could be the money shot just there. Always get a photo of the front of the house. It might sound counterintuitive because a lot of times you'll just be the add-on and there's already been a photographer who went through. So you're just doing a front photo though. For some reason, sometimes they still need it. So always get it's almost like a ground photo. Always get a normal front photo of the house. You're going to want to focus on any interesting features of the house, like, decks, pools, patios, interesting landscape, interesting architecture. So some good close-up, but not too close-up. Drone photos of those things as well. Common rookie mistake we see is a lot of people shoot way too high too early. Save for those one or two super high establishing shots. Really, it's rare that we're above 100 feet. It's rare we're even that high because it's just too high. You want to focus. You want to get the whole frame of the whole house in the frame of the picture, but also be able to see it in good detail. So a lot of times people go too high. But aside from those few photos, the rest of the photos you need to take are kind of up to you. But what you want to do is, again, establish something repeatable so that you go from house to house to house with kind of the same exact blueprint so you can speed up what it is that you're doing. Because, when I first started this, my first shoot, I was doing just photos and I burnt through like 2.5 or 3 batteries, which was insane, but I was nervous and trying to do my first one. Now I'm on site for just a photo shoot. I don't even use half a battery worth of juice because it's just, I've got it down so quick that I'm in and out in like 10 minutes. So you need to be able to do that, but you can only do that if you have something that you do, a blueprint that you do every single time. Timing of the day is also key. So, this is tough because a lot of people have day jobs who are doing it. The vast majority do. But midday is bar none the best time when the sun is the highest in the sky because you get a lot of sun issues doing this. And a lot of people will say to us, hey Josh, can I do this the golden hour? Let me do it then. It's the best day for photography. While there is some truth to that, the problem is scheduling during the golden hour is always a challenge because people might be eating dinner or it's just they're coming in and out from work. It's a difficult time to work around. So it's also a time when realtors aren't working. They don't want to work after 5 p.m., which a lot of times that's when it is. So you have to work around the customer schedule, and usually midday always seems to work. So if you can shoot at midday, that's another way to plan into it. Some of the best tips, there's so much that goes into it, but those are a lot of the things that we focus on. Really speed. Anything that you can do to speed up and automate your process is going to get you more business.
Are you aware of any tools that let you automate the flight plan from house to house? Or do you still have to fly each mission manually?
It's funny because there is a company building that. It's not out there yet. And a lot of people say, aren't you scared of this company? And frankly, I'm not at all because in the vast majority of the markets, that's not going to work. I can only imagine how much liability there is with it, frankly, because each house is so different. You could probably go and do something automated where you have the front picture of the house. But really, to get the really, really good photos, you always have to tweak the positioning. And you can't tell from a Google Maps shot exactly where the drone's going to have to be positioned to have just that money shot that has the house entirely in the frame of the photo, from the perfect angle, focusing on the perfect point of view. So I don't know of any for the actual flight plan. I've written tools myself that tell me the angle of the sun's going to be hitting the house at a certain time of day, that show me, the airspace around it, that show me the weather, not just the weather, but also the cloud cover, also the wind speed. So that speeds up stuff, those tools. But as far as the actual just flight path planning like that, no, I haven't seen anything that'll do photography. There's Lichty and all those other apps out there that'll fly around different coordinates and all that if you're doing something long stretch. But for photography, that's kind of the difference. There's less flying and more photography in real estate aerial drone work. So it's not really.
How about after the shoot, when you're editing the video? What kind of post-production considerations should drone operators think about?
Post-production is really what will set you apart from the competition in my mind, because there's just so many people who do this, and you can tell because you'll have a lot of new drone pilots who go out and they'll take a photo from whatever height and send it to the realtor thinking it's a great photo that's really awesome. That's not good enough. It has to pop. It has to look great. The colors have to look good. And right away it's a new guy when you look at the sky and the sky is blown out. So you'll see, the sun has just destroyed the sky. So for photos, you have to learn how to do sky replacements or find somebody you work with that does them. And also HDR. HDR is huge, especially, if you're going inside and doing interior work as well, then it's a little bit different. I might not recommend this, but for drone pilots, we'd shoot everything in RAW and then we merge the photos into HDR because that allows us to have the most room for error when it comes to exposure levels. And the sun just blasts out so many photos. So when you're shooting RAW and do HDR, you're able to correct that quite a bit. So between sky replacements and HDR, those are the two key things I would say for drone pilots looking to get into real estate photography. As far as video goes, there's a lot of tools out there. It doesn't really matter as much what you use. Final Cut, Premiere, iMovie, a ton of other Movie Maker, whatever. There's also other ones for Windows. The key is to just get in one and learn it well and spend some time learning it. You're going to want to keep your videos shorter than you want to a lot of times because a lot of people make these drone videos and no one watches a video past like a minute and a half usually. Our goal is to keep all of ours under 2 minutes because you lose the audience. Really, you lose them much quicker than that a lot of times. So your videos should be short. There should be no jerky movements in them. So anytime the drone, if the drone moves at all, if it's not like a straight fluid or a curving shot, you need to cut that clip, cut it in half or cut it to where it starts to get jerky and then splice it with another one so it transitions to it. So no jerky movements at all in your videos. Find audio tracks that you can reuse. So there's a number of sites out there. You're going to pay for it, but find at least one or two good audio tracks that have the feel of real estate to you that you can reuse. And you'll eventually get tired of these tracks. I can't tell you, I'm sick of mine because I have two that I've paid for. Man, I've used them so many times. It's like, you get sick of it. But it's fine though. Just find some that you can reuse, have a good license for you, and go back to those again and again.
For you personally, how have your videos changed from when you started a couple of years ago?
Speed. So when I first started, I had to invest a ton of time in post-production, and I did, and I'm glad for it. It's made the biggest difference. But early on, you have to learn all those tips and tricks. I didn't know Photoshop at all when I started. I didn't do video editing, very, very limited amount, really. And then picking up that knowledge, I didn't have any professional training. So I basically had to learn YouTube, teaching myself with experimenting. So I would spend multiple days. It would take me like 3 days to do one video. Many, many, many hours on one photo sometimes. But I'm thankful that I put that time in, and you have to early on, just to learn the tools so that now, I don't spend more than 2 minutes on a photo. I don't spend more than 2 hours on a video. And even that sometimes is too much. I try not to. It depends. There's always exceptions to the rules on both cases. But really put the time in early so that you get the speed to eventually know how to do the things quicker and to churn out the work much faster, because that's so critical.
Real estate is a people-oriented business, and many who start a drone-based business may find that part challenging. What advice would you give to drone operators on how to network and interact with realtors who become their clients?
Yeah, that's a tough one because we see it. There's all kinds of walks of life who are doing this, who just bought a drone and want to start businesses. And at the end of the day, it is a business. So it's just like every other business. Customer service is so critical. And there's a number of ways to improve that and keep that strong. One is to be empathetic and don't fake it. Be a nice person, be empathetic, understand where they're coming from. If you screw up, own up to it and repair the issue. Don't try to hide it. That just makes it much worse. But again, in a lot of things that I do, I think one of the most important things in business in this space in particular is speed. So if I get an email from someone and I don't answer within 2 hours, I consider that an SLA failure. If I don't answer in 24 hours, I must be on vacation. I don't know what's going on because that to me is terrible. So, really, really fast turnaround on customer service is critical. And I get it too. There's a lot of people who they don't want to sell. They don't want to have to interface with the customer a whole lot. And that's definitely part of this. This is a business. You have to be selling 24/7, telling everyone about what you're doing, constantly reaching out to new potential clients and customers. And that's tough because you have the fear of rejection there, and you're going to get rejected. You're going to get rejected hard. There's going to be some people who are very rude to you, and you have to just be able to brush that off. And it gets easier after the first few. But, if you approach it right, you can minimize those chances just by being, again, empathetic and friendly and feeling out kind of where they're at on things. But if you don't want to sell, that's where some of the sites like the businesses like mine and others, help out, because there are a lot of people who just want to fly. And in those scenarios, we have great partnerships with them because they don't want to deal with the customers. They just want to fly. And we have jobs that sometimes we need help with. So we'll send them to those people. So you don't have to necessarily sell all the time. But if you really want to do really well and you want to do more than just fly a little bit here and there, you are going to have to sell 24/7. So I would say just get out there and practice and keep pounding the pavement, and don't be discouraged, because, man, it's tough, because you have to go from one person to the next who was just rude to you and then bounce right back and go to another person and have that same smiley, upbeat personality face on that you had for the very first person. So, it's just let it roll off of you when it happens and just be positive.
Well, that's a good segue into your site. Can you talk about the service and some of the benefits? Why would somebody want to join SoldByAir?
Yeah, so there's a ton of benefits. A lot of it's the tools that I spoke about beforehand, for planning a shoot, running the business. It has customer billing and management in it. It also hosts virtual tours. So if you really want to grow a drone business in the real estate field, you have to know the space well. And one of the most common mistakes we see are that people, they don't know how to deliver video. And video is huge in this space. It's enormous. So a lot of people will say, they'll go on the forums on Facebook or the groups wherever. They'll say, how do I host video? How do I send it to the customer? And I see all these people reply. They're saying like Google Drive, Dropbox. It's the worst advice ever. That is, I cringe. I should get excited because I can help with that. But I cringe because I'm like, man, you're giving terrible advice. Because what happens is the MLSs, which there's many across the country, not just one. That's another common mistake people make. The MLSs, the vast majority of them do not allow video to be hosted. Now, some people will say, oh, but I sent video to my realtor. They got it on the MLS fine. But what you have in those scenarios most of the time is that the brokerages that these real estate agents work for, the Berkshire Hathaways, the Keller Williams, or whoever, they will sometimes have tools in place that allow hosting of video that then they can link to in the MLS. We've actually gained customers because of people screwing up in this specific instance. What will happen is you'll give a video to one person, one realtor, they'll be fine with it getting into MLS, but then the next person won't be able to get it on the MLS. And then when that happens, I'm like, oh, this drone guy didn't give me a video I can use. Let me reach out to someone else. Let me reach out to SoldByAir or somebody else who can do it and knows what they're doing. So you can host video yourself, or we do it, we automate it where, so we can host video. I don't want to get too much into it, but we host video for virtual tours. It has customer management. Like I said, it was created to run my own drone business, but it's so I know it can run a drone business because that's what I use it for every day. So it has all those tools. And then it also has the job network. It just so happens we also send out jobs. Now, most people join for that reason, which is fine, but there's so much more to it. We give advertising when people become paid members. You get your contact information on the site so you can circumvent the whole us sending you job piece part. That's another thing people are really attached to. Those are some of the features and functions, but there are many, many more as well.
Does the site offer any education materials to help operators become better at serving the real estate industry?
Oh, absolutely. It's funny you say that. One of the first documents I added to the site, most of all that's public. We just list it publicly because I'm all about sharing information. One of the first documents I wrote, I went and posted it on Facebook, and people, some of the responses I got were, what are you doing? Why are you sharing all this info with your competitors? So yeah, there's a lot of information out there on the site in particular to help you get up to speed on everything that is anything about doing real estate aerial photography and video. That's not to say there isn't more coming. There always is. It's a changing industry. We learn more. New tech comes out. New rules come out. New ways to use the drones come out. But there's definitely a lot of articles based around just planning the shoot, running the business, finding customers, et cetera, et cetera.
Are you able to say how many members you have on the site right now?
It's over 700 pilots right now across the nation. If someone out there is in Alaska, please sign up. It's the only state we don't have somebody in right now. It's been like that for a while too. It's like it's the only state. I'd love to get someone from Alaska just so we could say all 50 states. But yeah, we have over 700 drone pilots all across the country. We average probably about 2 a day register right now. It's real simple to register. That's why it's growing so fast, I think. We don't actually ask for your drone pilot license until we have work for you, so anybody can register. It makes it really easy and inviting. So it's simple to get signed up. Then once there's a job in your area, that's where we start to kind of weed out the people who might not have the availability, which I wanted to hit on availability too, because it's such a huge thing in this space. And I feel bad saying it because I know that this is tough for a lot of people, but the number one thing that we see for growing your own drone business in real estate is availability. I'm not saying quit your day job. Don't do that. But man, there are so many times where we send a job out and the requirement for the customer is they want it done at 1 p.m. or noon or whatever. And of the 20 pilots it hits, there might only be one who has that time available because their work schedule it works with. So that's a tough one. And if you have a job that allows for that, that's great. So it's not something you can readily fix, but it'll get you a lot more work if somehow you have the availability to be able to do midday shoots during the week. Absolutely.
From everything you've said, it sounds like a person can make some money doing real estate, but they're going to have to hustle a bit. And they're going to have to figure out how to deliver a better product than the guy down the street. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, you need to be the best at your price point. We're not going to be the cheapest ever, but we can say we're going to deliver the best product at our price point. That's, to me, where you need to be. And again, it's just having something else besides just real estate aerial photography. We went the platform/network route because that adds a little extra into it, whereas other people go the route of doing inspections for insurance companies or cell phone towers. You can make decent money doing real estate. By decent, I mean decent side money. I would not bank anything on full-time income doing strictly real estate aerials. Definitely not. That's high risk, and it's just the bar of entry is way too low. I want to say you can follow your dreams and make it happen just on your own, but it's just reality. It's just a numbers game, and there's a lot of drone pilots looking for work. I wish we could give jobs to all the people on our site, and we give a lot of jobs out, but there's more pilots than there are jobs really available. So just be realistic about it.
What are some of the ways for operators to generate new business?
There are a number of ways you can grow your company. And I am not a fan of Facebook ads, frankly. There was a point in time where I think they did have value, but that was before they've started jacking up the price on them. They have clearly come up in price to the level now where the return on investment just isn't there. There are definitely people out there who swear by them, but it seems like all of those people are people who are trying to sell you a magic cookbook on how to make Facebook ads. So, you can experiment with them here and there, and you should, but they're really overpriced for what you get as far as impressions and click through on them. Cold calling definitely works. It's brutal, it's grueling, but it definitely can work. Some other tricks that we've used is yard sale groups on Facebook, local groups that allow posting. We've found business that way. But at the end of the day, this is a relationship industry. Realtors, their whole money line is based on relationships. It's who they know is who they get to sell houses for. So that's how they think. So relationships are so key. If you can get in person with them, go to where the real estate agents are, go to the brokerage, go to events. I've been known to stop into even open houses here and there. And they have to be careful about solicitation laws and rules and all that. But yeah, anytime you can get yourself face to face, that's the best thing you can do, honestly. You'll hear people going on about SEO and search engine optimization, making sure your website's ranked number one. Unless you're at a national level, don't waste your time, honestly. And even then, we rank very, very well for a lot of key search terms in drone real estate. I mean, number one for many of them. But the vast majority of our work still comes from relationships that we've established either in person or over the phone or what have you, just because it trumps everything. So focus on the person skills and either connecting phones, email, in person. Email's at the bottom of that pile in my mind. Social media works. You can connect on that. And that definitely helps. We get a decent bit of business from social media, but nothing beats in person. Even I'd consider the phone kind of over social media to a degree because it's a little more personal, honestly.
And for my final question, Josh, what has this whole experience been like for you?
It's been incredible. Honestly, it's the most exciting project I've ever worked on. It's like month over month growth. So it's just exhilarating. And really, I do it because it's fun. That's really what's in it. That's why I got into it. That's why I do it. It's not to make a bunch of money. It's because every now and then I'm on a shoot and I'm like, I'm getting paid to do this. How awesome is that? I'm getting paid to fly a drone. It doesn't even matter how much it is. And that's, I think, the mindset you have to have is that you're doing it because you love it. And it's been so fun. And I hope that doesn't stop because it really has been an incredible experience so far.
That's it for episode 143 of the Drone Radio Show. I hope you enjoyed hearing from Josh Boughner of SoldByAir and hearing how drones are used in the real estate industry. I want to thank Josh for taking the time to speak with me. If you want to learn more about SoldByAir or want to connect with Josh, check out the webpage at soldbyair.com. If you like the Drone Radio Show, please consider supporting the podcast with a small donation. The content is always free, but for as little as $1 per month, you can help defray the cost of production. To donate, go to patreon.com/Drone Radio Show. And thanks for listening. Your support means a lot to me, and I hope you'll listen to more episodes of the Drone Radio Show podcast to hear how others are using drones for business, fun, and research. For the Drone Radio Show, I'm Randy Gores.
This has been the Drone Radio Show podcast. More information on today's show can be found on our website at www.droneradioshow.com. If you're using drone technology for business, fun, or research and would like to share your experience on the show, please visit our website and fill out a guest appearance application. And don't forget to follow us on your favorite social media channels.